Good intent, yeah.
Rolling that compressor with my little bro, good intent.
Love it go both ways. Round neck just like a pomfret. Blowing up just like grenade. In your mouth like how that taste. Boy, get out my face. Some bullshit catch my fade. I be so in my ways. I be all in the bed. I be so in my ways.
Recently, I got contacted by a man who has been falsely accused of sexually abusing his children by the Child Protective Services, in Finnish lastensuojelu, or simply LASU. The claims were found to be completely untrue by court, but that doesn't matter. He is now branded as a child abuser for the rest of his life, since nobody cares about the court decision. What matters is that he was accused. He is suffering from severe mental problems because of this, and he does not want any personal details revealed, since he and his family have been threatened by the social workers that those will take revenge if their misdeeds are publicized. I will not reveal his real name, but instead refer to him as Philip. Philip is a married man who has been living in Finland for over 20 years. He has an immigrant background. To contrast the horrible claims made about him, he has no criminal record, nor has he ever been arrested. He wrote me his story, and I will now read while offering some commentary. The title of the story is Innocent Until Falsely Accused. I will talk to you about the covert actions, some made by covert narcissists, taken against me and my family, and also against local men. This account is intended to be informative and also reveal issues that must be discussed by men because they surely cannot continue, and I invite you to consider what could happen if things were to get worse. Local authority. This local authority has autonomy and delegated authority without oversight. Therefore, the local authority social workers are only accountable to themselves, and in the case of serious false allegations, this means that they are not prevented or controlled at all. Practically, almost anyone who is unscrupulous can make a false allegation, even a criminal allegation, anonymously. The system therefore does absolutely nothing to prevent or limit the potential of false allegations to be used as a weapon. There are social workers that have a personal agenda or vendetta against men or against multicultural families. The victims of this persecution are offered little or no protection against prejudice and racial abuse. In my experience, the solution offered by the social worker is to relocate to another area. This is the same proposal now offered to peaceful, innocent Ukrainians. Essentially anyone that is forced from their home by terror is a refugee. I can say 100% that Finnish social workers, in my experience, enable a system of terror. Making complaints to avi, in Finnish aluehallintovirasto, results in an official reprimand when they break child welfare laws. However, due to the militant nature of this radical feminist ideology, they are out to get you after that. You are innocent until falsely accused, but once falsely accused, you are branded with their mark. The police and social services employ prejudiced people that, due to their internal prejudices, are convicted that you are guilty and they are out to get you. When false allegations result in death threats and threats of violence, or even physical attacks, the police are not interested, even less interested when you are a foreigner. This is racial prejudice and racial discrimination, and typical in my experience. Both police and social workers are easily led because they are institutionally taught to behave so. This local authority, which I will not name due to fear of reprisals or revenge attacks, has done nothing to build trust or develop a positive relationship. They have earned and deserve contempt and disrespect, and I have learned that they are not to be trusted. So Philip says that a large part of the Finnish social sector is run by militant feminists who are out to get men, both local and immigrants, all in the name of the best interest of the child. False allegations can and are submitted anonymously, and if an allegation turns out to be false and the authorities decide to take no action based on it, this is not documented, since that way even a false allegation seems more credible. The social services are enabling this abuse, and Philip says, Many social workers take advantage of suspicions against immigrants and use it to make threats and get compliance from them. Philip continues, "Know your rights. You should be aware of your legal rights, however you will not be told what your rights are and not where you can refer to such information. The conduct and practice of this local authority is to participate in bullying and narcissistic manipulation for their own advantage. Their conspiracy with malignant false accusers is camouflaged as protecting children. The reality is that the service they provide enables a dysfunctional sociopath and her friends to harass, disrupt, intimidate and bully innocent families repeatedly. Being aware of your rights doesn't mean that they will be upheld, however you will be aware when social workers are breaking the law. Men have the right to complain, but they will be treated with contempt by social workers. I was, and my friends were too. Men can write to Avi and complain. The breaches of law and legal rights will be communicated to the local authority in writing. Men that make such complaints will be targeted by social welfare services, and the abuse and malpractices of the social workers will increase. This happened to me and my friend too. Men are treated, in my experience, with contempt and disdain by women that want to provoke outrage. Provocation often leads to intimidation, and the woman becomes overtly confrontational and hostile. Walking out is the man's best option, however, this is also used against him. The social worker writes notes that are often pure fiction, and again the man has the right to request the errors or deliberate untruths are corrected. But this is made as difficult as possible. I returned a copy with the errors corrected and amended in red pen, and it looked like a painting in the end. I had no choice because they refused to get it right. I concluded that this too was a deliberate strategy to provoke an angry response. I would also add that this local authority made the national newspapers when a local pensioner begged them for help. He was caring for his unwell wife at his home and asked them for help doing this. The man was denied assistance, and the result was him killing his wife and then killing himself. This event was followed shortly thereafter by the resignation of the social services manager, a woman who proved herself to be cold, cruel and overtly hostile. I was not convinced by her press statement when she denied refusing to provide a desperate man with help and assistance. So, according to Philip, victims of abuse by social services, if you can call that service, are discouraged to report their complaints since the abusers themselves will read the complaints in writing and target the ones complaining. He also mentions that often female social workers become confrontational to provoke an angry response, a reaction from her target, which she can then use to prove that the man is violent and dangerous. I have also met many women who, knowing that women get away with this kind of behavior, will start acting hysterically until they get their way. The man cannot match her hysterical behavior because men cannot get away with it, so a man would be hard-pressed to just give the woman what she wants. Philip explains further. Innocent until falsely accused. Men can be, and increasingly are, targeted by those with malicious intent. The lasso system enables malice to be directed at the target via an overtly zealous association of feminists, some of whom believe they are on a moral crusade. Indeed, some of these social workers are on a personal crusade and have their own personal agendas. One that I have had the misfortune to be a victim of is, I am reliably informed, herself a victim of childhood domestic violence and abuse by her alcoholic father. This would explain her covert hostility towards men that have been falsely accused by angry women. I have met other local men that have also been falsely accused and then attacked by the same female social worker. I have also heard a first-hand report of a man that has been falsely accused of child sexual abuse twice. The female social worker enabled the ex-wife to get the charges into court twice. On both occasions the father was proven innocent. He was branded by the local community as a child sex abuser, and his reputation was badly affected. This awful stress of these events led directly to his medical stroke and facial paralysis, which was finally too much for him. He took his own life to escape the misery his life had been turned into by a vindictive and manipulative ex-wife and her social worker collaborator. The social workers enabled the mother to have both innocent children be put through internal medical examinations that proved no sign of sexual abuse, but still the man was put twice through hell. I also have a personal friend that has been threatened by the same social worker, and he moved out of his house due to the intimidation and threats. If Philip's story is true, then this should prove that the so-called Child Protective Services system is a threat to all men and children in this country. If not entirely run by, then at least a large portion of it is controlled by a group of man-haters that have no problem driving men to suicide on a whim. Now to the last part of Philip's story. Rubbish in, rubbish out. The results or outcomes of any process rely upon the quality of ingredients or components used and the skills of the operators. In interpersonal processes, this is reliant on both the interpersonal skills and personality of those performing the process. A process that uses cheap ingredients of dubious provenance will not provide a healthy, wholesome meal. The end result will be junk. When the process is reliant on factual information, the key equation is simple: rubbish in, rubbish out. Finnish social services enable, allow and welcome rubbish information in. Any person can tell them anything, and even in the case of criminal allegations, the person making the allegation will remain anonymous. There is no disincentive to abuse the system. There are some people that believe they can lie to social workers, social services, and abuse the child welfare system to harass and intimidate people. There are social workers that are highly narcissistic and very unpleasant and manipulative people. I know this because I have had to deal with them. I have met other local men that have suffered the same abuse because the local authority has a reputation for being an abuser of authority. I have met a church elder and his wife who works for the local authority that have themselves been falsely accused by social workers, and they now help to protect other families under threat and intimidation from local authority social workers. Perhaps the most disgusting thing was discovering that this local authority was using a tukihenkilö, somebody who closely works with children, who is a director of a children's home in a neighboring town. How is it possible that such a conflict of economic interest is not declared? It was not declared. I researched this person and found out the facts, then communicated it to Avi, and soon thereafter the person vanished from their role within the local authority. I am sure this should be illegal activity. It is clearly immoral. So this clear conflict of economic interest that Philip found does not surprise me in the slightest, as it is known that nowadays many children's homes are run by private companies that have an economic incentive to get children away from their parents by whatever means necessary, and that this means that children's home will get a handsome amount of taxpayer money for taking care of the child. Children's homes should not be allowed to be run by private companies and receive taxpayer money. And this concludes Philip's story. I hope you learned something from it. I certainly did.
Lollipops! Come along, my little one.